to the world of one of the most intriguing persons that I know and one of my best friends in life. Welcome to the world of Buzz Williams, head coach, Marquette University. One of the most frequent questions that's asked of me when it comes to college coaches is, Coach, what kind of guy is Buzz Williams? So answer that for me, answer it for those inquisitive souls who want to know what kind of guy is Buzz Williams.
In a lot of ways, Coach, I think that there are a lot of contradictions in my life. Number one, I want to be the person that God created me to be. Number two, I want to be the husband that He intends for me to be. And number three, I want to be the father that He asked me to be. And then I think after that, it's probably sometimes where the perception of me may be different than the reality of who I really am. I think you, the people that are close to me, that have been around me in different forums and in different environments, have a much better feel for who I am than maybe just an interview at a halftime or a press conference. I think at times maybe how I answer questions, maybe even my body language at times. I don't know that those people that only see those snippets truly have a gauge for who I really am.
Of all the things that you could have been in life, why did you decide to become a basketball coach?
I felt early on that this was what I wanted to do. I think when I realized that I wasn't a very good player, I knew that's what I wanted to do. And throughout my entire adult life, it's all that I ever have done. My children, my oldest children, are just getting to the age where they ask me that sort of question, like, how long have you been doing this, Dad? And why do you do this? And did you ever do anything else? And the answer is I didn't. Now, the part that I haven't explained to them that I can explain to you, I never knew that my life was going to turn into what it has turned into. I started as a manager at a junior college. That's well documented. Coach Orr is still an assistant here with me at Marquette.
And he was your junior college coach?
He was who I worked for my first 2 years in college. And the day that I was hired as the head coach at Marquette is the day that he retired from that junior college.
Wow.
And joined us here. So Coach has been with us the entire time that we've been here. But if you rewind in my career, if you want to begin as a college student, I never knew that it would turn into what it has turned into. And I think that's one of the things as I've progressed that I have personally tried to be accountable for is to never let the stage, to never let the money, to never let the position change the reason why I got into coaching. And why I got into coaching is I love kids. I want to have as many meaningful relationships with kids, with coaches as possible. And like all other coaches, I really love to compete. But I didn't know that it would turn into the things that have transpired here over the last 5 years. 7 years ago, I resigned as the head coach at New Orleans. So there was no way after the ridicule that I received from the media at that moment in time that I would have ever thought that 6 years later I would be doing an interview with you.
So, Buzz, let's not miss the opportunity to do this. So let's step back a couple steps. Coach Orr, talk about the impact he's had on your life.
So I attended Navarro Junior College, which is in Corsicana, Texas. That's about 2.5 hours from the town that I grew up in, which was Van Alstyne, Texas. The first day of school, I introduced myself to Coach Orr and asked him if I could just come to practice. I would sit in the top row. I just wanted to watch practice. That went on for about a month. And then I had literally no interaction with Coach during that first month of school. Practice was every day at 3. It was a junior college. There's no calendar of when you can practice or how many you can practice with. So literally I would go to the junior college every day, to the gym, and watch practice. And after about a month, he said, if you want to continue to come to practice, you need to be here an hour early and you need to sweep the floor. And so I began to do that. And things just began to evolve from that. I was living in a lake cabin 42 miles one way from campus. And so when I enrolled at Navarro, and it's amazing how I even got to that point, to be honest with you, but I was paying for tuition fees, room and board. It just so happened that my room and board was not on campus. So as things began to evolve, by the end of the first semester at Navarro, Coach had given me a scholarship. Coach wanted me to live on campus. I developed really good relationships with the players. I loved the players. Had never been around guys as talented, as big, as strong as those guys. I was from a town of 2,000 people. There was 46 kids in my graduating class. So even though it was at a junior college, and even now that seems so small, at 17 years old, it was really, really big. And Coach Orr was the point person in all of those experiences. And I never dreamed that when I introduced myself that my life and his life would be so intertwined. But I can say that in the 2 years that I was with Coach, he continued to give me more and more responsibility. I was driving the vans to the games. I was driving him to go recruiting. He was sending me to go watch kids play, not to recruit, but to figure out if I even knew what a player was. He's the one that encouraged me, Coach. In every summer of my entire college career, I worked at college camp every week of every month of each summer.
Wow.
Now, again, I wasn't doing it for money, but as I wrote all of the colleges and asked if I could work camp, I would try to regionally figure out how I could get from one camp to the next camp. And like most camps, they're Monday through Friday, and so I would arrange with the first camp, can I spend the Friday night in the dorm and help you close up camp? I would get to know the camp director so that I could leave on Saturday. And then whatever my mode of transportation would be, the train, a bus, I didn't have a vehicle that could travel that far. I would have made arrangements with camp number 2's camp director. Can I arrive a day early and help you begin to prepare for camp? So I would be gone literally the whole summer, just going from camp to camp. That was Coach Orr. I think that the media has mentioned this at one point in time, but again, you have to kind of understand where I came from and where I was at. I had no idea the difference between Division III, Division II, BCS, assistant coach, associate head coach. I didn't understand any of that. And so we were at a junior college. We won the league both years I was there. Had really, really good players, even though I didn't know they were really good when I initially started. So every college coach that I met, I would ask them for their business card. And so if you rewind to the coaches that I met my first semester in college when I was just sitting in the top of the gym, out of class at 11, out of class at noon, didn't have enough money for a meal ticket, so I was just waiting around until practice at 3, waiting until practice was over to drive 42 miles to the lake cabin that I was staying at. When I would meet these college coaches, I would ask for their business card. And then from that moment in time, throughout the rest of my college career, I would write them a letter once a week. So you can imagine what the letter would be. I mean, by that time, I was 18, 19, 20 years old. This was before the internet. This was before Twitter, before Facebook. I would just take a sheet of legal paper and write, Coach Rav, I hope that you have a great week. I saw where you won against whatever team. Good luck, and I'll talk to you. I'll write you again next week. And by the time I graduated from college, 2 years at Navarro and 2 years at OCU, there were 425 coaches that I was writing once a week. Now, again, I was on my own fiscally for college, so I didn't have enough money for the envelopes and the paper and the stamps. I did initially, but as I began to become more involved in campus life, that Coach Orr would give me responsibilities to go see financial aid or go to the bookstore, or go to the business office. I began to get to know all of those people. And so what I would do is I would ask them for some of their stationery, and they would say, whatever, Navarro College, Office of Financial Aid. And I did the same thing at Oklahoma City University. So I would get to know the secretaries. I would get to know anybody in each of the different schools or programs on campus. And that's how I would gather enough letterhead, envelopes, and then I would take it back to them and say, hey, would you mail this for me? And so
you were an entrepreneur before there were entrepreneurs.
I just didn't know that honestly, Coach, I didn't know. What I knew was this. I knew that I never wanted to disappoint Coach Orr. I knew that the best way for me to make myself indispensable within Navarro College basketball was to know everything about every player all the time. So I would memorize their schedules. I would wake them up in the mornings. I would make sure they were at class. Not that Coach Orr asked me to do that, but I always wanted to be able to answer Coach Orr's questions if he asked me. Hey, where's George at today? Coach, he gets out of class at 11:30, and then normally goes to eat lunch. Meet him at the cafeteria. And that's just it just blossomed. And again, I was writing those letters. Gar Foreman, who's the general manager of the Bulls, was an assistant at New Mexico State. And I never knew that when I was writing Coach Foreman that he was going to turn into the GM. And years later, the first player I ever signed at Marquette would be a first-round pick by the Bulls. There was no ulterior motive because I didn't understand the business. But I began in the business, I think, by how to best understand people of all walks of life. And Coach Orr never shielded me from anything, continued to give me more and more responsibility to the point that in my second year, like most schools in Texas, the football coach was the AD. And everybody knew me at that time, by that time, as Buzz, because Coach Orr had given me that nickname. And the AD, who was a football coach, came to me and said, here's a key, and here's a credit card, and here's the long distance code. And that's your office right there. And they gave me an office, and I had a long distance code to call, and I had a gas credit card for all the vans to take whenever we were traveling as a team, or if I went recruiting, and again, I didn't even know it was recruiting. Coach just said, hey, go to Duncanville High School. The game's at 7 o'clock. Tell me if any of those kids can play. And so I then began to develop a relationship with the AD, with his secretary, with his offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. And so it blossomed in ways that I wasn't prepared for, but I was so excited about. And I give credit to Coach because he never tried to dampen my hopes. Because when I left there after 2 years, my dream was to replace Coach Orr, come back and be an assistant for Coach, and replace him when he retired. But again, my paradigm was so small, and he gradually allowed my paradigm to continue to grow and to continue to grow.
Buzz, unbeknownst to me and unbeknownst to you, you just gave us our first introduction to creating value for yourself 101. That's really what the lesson I take from listening to you is. You were a person who, over the course of time with patience and discipline, created a unique value for himself. And I think it's a great lesson for those young coaches who are going to be watching this tape to understand that this is an early induction and an exposure to creating a value for yourself 101 as taught by Professor Buzz Williams. Buzz, let me